We are now joined by Kelli Wells, who's the Executive Director of Education and Skills at the GE Foundation. So nice to have you here. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to meet you, and thank you.
So talk to us a little bit, how has your partnership with NSTA benefited the GE Foundation's effort?
So we've had a long relationship with NSTA, and it started off by having conversations around what were the needs for teachers. And we looked at the help and assistance in creating what is called their virtual SciPacks and SciObjects, their learning center. And that's where the relationship started, and from there it just blossomed. And we realized that we needed to conduct hands-on activities and create professional development for educators. So we started off creating cohorts in various cities throughout the country, and we brought teachers together and we started to look at best practices in STEM. And so really focusing on the science aspect of things. And what happened is that this small group of educators formed this bond, formed this relationship, and that all of the teachers that attended the professional development over the summer ended up going on to present at regional, national, international conferences. And we even had a team of teachers that went over to Ireland and conducted STEM workshops and professional development for the teachers there. So it's been a great relationship. I feel I've learned so much from NSTA, but more importantly, the educators that we touch every single day are the ones that are really benefiting.
Very cool, very, very neat. So what is the GE Foundation doing to push STEM education? Besides all the other things that you just mentioned.
So it's been a really interesting, as you look over the history of the GE Foundation and the work that we've done, we've started off with developing futures, which was really a three-pronged approach. It was one, building a collaborative culture with the board, the union, and the superintendent. The second piece was going deep in curriculum instruction in STEM, and then the third was leveraging our GE volunteers. And through that work, it's evolved over time. Because what we have seen is that society has changed over time and these communities have changed. More technology has been brought in. But one thing we've really noticed is that when you talk about STEM, it tends to happen in silos. You see science happening in the science classroom, math happening in the math, checking the box for technology, and then the engineering can be a little complicated if you don't have exposure or experience with that. So what we're really trying to work on is, and in partnership with NSTA, is how do we create more of an integrated approach? How do we look at lessons that cross all of those disciplines, and that teachers are really having the tools and resources that are necessary to be successful? So right now the big focus for the foundation is that STEM integration, but also bringing in what are the tools of the future. Things like 3D printers, things like laser cutters, and not just providing experience with that, but allowing for students to understand the careers and the pathways. So we're starting to bring all of this together so that students can really have an engaging experience, but you have to be able to work with the teachers to provide them the tools and resources so that they can support their students.
Right. Well, and it's all, so it's just opening the doors, right? And making them see the options that are out there.
Exactly.
To be able to see it firsthand.
Exactly.
So why do you think it's important for STEM education to improve for our next workforce generation?
Well, 80% of the jobs of the future are going to require some sort of STEM. And so we need to make sure that students understand that connection between what they're learning in the classroom and what the jobs of the future require. And it's especially interesting when you think about the jobs of the future, they're unknown. Technology is advancing so quickly that there's this whole part of society that we don't even know what's going to exist out there. And if you think about your current job right now, you don't do things in buckets. You don't say, I'm just going to focus on math right now, but I'm not going to have any literacy involved in it. Or I'm going to focus on science and I'm not going to have math.
Right.
Everything is intertwined. And what we need to do is to work on making sure that STEM is integrated, STEM is intertwined, so that we're not doing this in silos, but that we're truly working across disciplines to make sure that students have these experiences. And we also need to think about how do you provide exposure to careers. Students don't have any idea what those careers of the future are.
Right.
We don't even know what they are.
Right.
So we need to expose them to things like 3D printers. We need to expose them to laser cutters. They need to understand the technology and not just say, wow, this is a cool machine,
right,
but to say, wow, I can use a 3D printer and that actually leads to additive manufacturing. And so we want to be able to show those crossroads, show that synergy there, and really provide students that exposure. But the only way to get to that place is by working with teachers. You have to work with the educators to provide them with the tools and resources so that they can be successful and they can be comfortable. Because for many of these teachers, they weren't learning coding in college. I know I certainly wasn't. And it's really transformed. And so we need to help teachers to understand how to use those tools, how to use those resources. And I think that's the value of what NSTA brings to the table. They're there about the cutting edge. They're looking at the next generation science standards. They're constantly thinking about how do we intertwine all of these disciplines together and really make it successful for the teachers so that our students can be successful, because they are our future.
Love it. Sounds like we just want well-rounded children and well-rounded people.
Exactly, exactly.
Kelli Wells, Executive Director of Education and Skills at the GA Foundation. Thank you so much for joining us.
Well, thank you.